Hi everyone, welcome to your Thriving Family Online Summit. My name is Evrim Numanoğlu Özgen and I'm your host. In this online summit, we talk about how to lay a strong foundation for a connected, joyful and healthy family. Today, I'm very excited about my special guest and her very special wisdom about families, parenting and children, and life indeed. Let me introduce you Naomi. Naomi is the author of the bestseller Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves, which is published in 19 languages. She guides parents in phone and Skype sessions, workshops, and speaking events worldwide. She works holistically toward a peaceful and powerful parent-child relationship from infancy through teens and adults, including the emotional needs of parents. Her guidance is not about gentle ways to control a child, but about how to have harmony and joy without having to control. It is about a way of being and of understanding our children so they can do their best, not because they fear us or seek our approval, but because they want to, of their own free will. And I love this part. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to interview you, and there's so much that we will cover today. And can we start with, first of all, can we start with that beautiful piece in your bio that I've introduced, that you help families, you guide parents to raise children who are free from seeking approval and who actually utilize their own free will. So could you give your insight about it?
Absolutely, and it connects to the title of the book, Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves, because 99.9% of the time the parent is seeking approval. Even the approval of the child, the relatives, the friends, and the child get that message also just from modeling, but also from the interaction with the parent, like through praise and approval of the child, and the child can't stay free. But if we don't start freeing ourselves, I would say when parents call me for sessions on Skype or Zoom or come over here and work on themselves, on being powerful, on being able to really see what's going on, what's the problem with my child. Because if they tell me the story or I see their child, within seconds I know what the problem. They ask me, how come you see that? And I say, because I'm not caught in seeking approval. I'm not caught with the anxiety of, am I doing the right thing? What will others say? Am I being a good mother? I'm really, really present to what's going on to the other person. I'm not feeling when the child is defiant or angry or even tells me, I hate you, Mom. I'm not focused on, oh my God, what's wrong with me? He hates me. How can he say that? He shouldn't say that. I'm focused on, gee, my child has a very painful feeling about me. And I get interested. So I'm focused on the child because my mind doesn't automatically go into that place of, am I good enough? That comes from this needing approval. And when you raise a child, you have to work on yourself to not seek approval because they sense it immediately. It's like their whole life. You go to the playground and you're concerned, they push another child and you're immediately showing that you're concerned what the other mother would say, and they're learning seeking approval.
Wow, that is so powerful. Actually, raising children are probably the best opportunity, one of the best opportunities in life to improve ourselves, right? Actually see what our patterns are. So so powerful. And
So they're the mirror this way. For that's the part about working on yourself. And then once you work on yourself, you don't do it to the child. You see, the way we teach the child to seek approval is evaluating them, praising them, good boy, good girl, not good, don't do that, all these evaluations, or giving them prizes, or telling them this is really nice, you did so well, and we're doing it with love. We intend to encourage, but it doesn't encourage to be yourself independently and powerfully. It encourages to appease other people. Did good by my eyes. Oh, I need to please my mother. I need to do what other people are saying is right. And we can teach to care for other people, which is different than to impress other people.
Okay, so that's such a great way to put it, because I was going to ask you, I was ready to jump really, because that is, I think that praising and doing all the things that you said with love, we all do that, like majority of parents do that, and I find myself doing it almost every day. And knowing that it's not the way sometimes doesn't really solve the issue. So what do you advise? How do you work with parents to really tackle this part of?
To first work on themselves, which is, big part of what I also give hands-on advice in the sessions and family intensives and workshops. But a lot is the parent working on themselves to mature beyond that need for mommy's approval, which translates now with needing the approval of some stranger in the playground or the neighbor or the relatives or the in-laws. And to free oneself from that is really step one. And then to learn from my book, articles, or private sessions, to work on realizing how much of what we say and do with children ends up teaching them to seek approval, which is teaching them to be insecure, not rooted in themselves. And it can start, I want to give you a very primal example. Sleeping together. Some parents would tell me, even for a baby or a toddler or a young child, shouldn't the child sleep by themselves so they learn to be independent? They give me this word independent. But when the child sleeps alone, he's not independent, he's alone, he's not learning to be independent. He is learning exactly the opposite, because he's not doing what he wants, unless he wants to, but I'm talking about a child who would rather sleep with you. And if the baby and the child wants to sleep with you, he becomes independent if you actually go ahead and sleep with that baby and child, because he's learning what I feel inside is right.
Then how do we really make that balance though? Because I mean, not as a baby, yeah, I see that baby, that really newborn baby phase is different, but giving that space and opportunity to children to do what they want, and also teaching them that, maybe there's time and space for things, or it's like they don't have that, that gratification, like, instant gratification kind of feeling or habit. So how do we make that balance?
Well, you have to distinguish, and again, it's working about yourself so that you have clarity. You have to distinguish between a primal, authentic need and a want. And you have to distinguish, and a want is something you learn. It's a habit. You want ice cream. That's not a need. You need love. You need air. You need connection, right? And you have to distinguish between a child's need for themselves, about themselves, and children needing you to be a certain way, controlling other people. So a lot of, especially mothers who are very, very loving, are very confusing in this second. They can distinguish primal need from just a want, but they have hard time realizing that what the child is insisting on is that they wear the red shirt and not the white shirt, which has nothing to do with them. Mommy, I want you to wear this, or Mommy, I want you to do this. If it has nothing to do with the child, I want you not to talk to grandpa right now. That is a mixed one. That's where one has a problem, because, you don't want your mommy to talk to grandpa because you want mommy to be with you. And that can be the case, but it doesn't have to be. If I made sure they got all the attention and they have somebody else to be with them, so they're not sitting there babysitting me and my needs to talk to someone else, could be a friend, doesn't have to be grandpa. But a lot of people say, my child doesn't let me talk to my friends. So, well, does he have some friend to talk to at the same time? Or are you asking them to be like your playground is talking to a friend, and he has to be the parent, the adult, sitting there and waiting for you to entertain yourself with your friends? Because that's not right either. So it makes us really aware of what we're expecting, what is a need. So a need for attention is a real need. But if the child has attention and they have daddies playing with them, and you're having your session with Naomi, which happens a lot, and then the child
Happening now.
exactly, and then the child says, "But I want mommy now." It's all right to say, "Mommy is busy right now. You're with daddy. You're safe. Everything is fine." I'm not talking about infant wanting to breastfeed. A lot of mothers breastfeed while on Zoom or Skype with me, or in my home or whatever. But we're talking at later years when a child just all of a sudden, "No, I want mommy right now." They're not going to be damaged when they understand it's going to be 40 minutes before you get mommy. They don't get 40 minutes, but they have daddy. And when daddy let the child run over and come and interrupt mommy, I tell the mommy, just tell them, you're busy right now. And also tell the father ahead of your session, I always tell them to not let the child run over to you. Because that's a disturbance right there, but to really be strong and be the one saying, "Mommy's not available right now, I'm with you." So, and distinguish between also a huge emotional harm going on with the child, and the child is just wanting something that can be done later, or that doesn't have to be done at all. It's all right for children to not get what they want in the moment they want it.
Yeah.
Or at all, depends. I didn't give my children candy with sugar ever. It's all right.
I'm happy to hear that. Yes. So it's and it's also is about teaching the boundaries, and it also starts with us, just like you said, that I won't be available for 40 minutes, and it's okay. So setting that boundary helps the child to learn to do the same.
Yeah, and it depends on the age. If it's a 2-year-old who wants to breastfeed, I take them and breastfeed them while giving a session. No question about that. But, so when they're little and it's a primal need like breastfeeding or falling asleep on mommy, it doesn't disturb the session. And I have lots of parents who have a toddler or a baby on them while they're having a session. Workshops are full of parents doing that. So distinguishing that, and that's totally different from teaching children to seek approval by constantly giving them the message that what they're doing is being approved or not approved. So the main message I give how to stop doing that is stop doing that. Just don't say anything. Treat the child like an adult. A child is doing something. When an adult is doing something, you don't tell them. You don't go, "Oh my God, you're washing the dishes so beautifully. It's so clean. Good girl, good boy." We don't do that to adults. Why are we so constantly commenting on what children do? That's why my article, which is on my website, Getting Out of the Way, and also the 3 articles, the continuous article about the price of praise. So rewarding, praising, making a fuss over a child. And there is my famous story of a client who told me as an adult he thought he was mentally disabled, and he wasn't. But all his childhood, parents praised him and made such a big fuss about achievements that he didn't think were much. First time he went down a slide, that's the thing that when I worked with him came in his memory. This was in a workshop. It's on the CD set called Trusting Our Children, Trusting Ourselves. That story is in there. And he says, I was 2 years old, and I contemplated, I was a little afraid going down the slide. And when I finally went down on my belly, feet first, my parents did cheerleading. Yay! You did it! So he says he actually, and you don't remember much from age 2.5, but that's kind of a picture that was in his memory. He said, I assumed something horrible was wrong with me. Or why did they make a fuss over this? Not only that, but these parents completely missed validating his true experience. or saying nothing would have left him free, not now starting to do everything to get that reaction, thinking, oh, that's the reaction I need to get. And of course, they did it over other things. So it continued over the years. So he became a person who just looking for what can I do to get the woohoo, you did the right thing. And most children, like, when can I get my good boy, good girl, good job, you did great. So they're working for that instead of doing what they really want. The child who went down the slide, when he went down the slide, may have been actually startled, scared. He may have not wanted it to do it again, and even his parents' positive reaction could have been totally confusing. I hear parents who tell me, they say a child is painting a picture, and they say, wow, what a picture, it's so good, da, 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 making the same kind of fuss. And the child was just ready to throw that picture away or paint on the other child, because a minute before they said to themselves, not in words, but they acted like, this is a flop, I'm going to make another one. And then the parent making a big fuss, so now they think, oh, I have to paint another one like this. This is the one they like, and this is not what they want to paint. So the child going down the slide need a neutral parent. Ideally, the answer to your question, so what do we do? How do we cure it? I say in a rough way, just close your mouth. Don't say so much.
Okay.
Treat them with respect. Think, if they were an adult, would I say anything? And sometimes we even say to adults too much. So be careful with that one too. So really, we're patronizing. We give praise and all kinds of stuff when none is, the person is doing it for their own joy. A child is coming down the slide for themselves. There's nothing to say. But if you see on their face that they're happy, you can ask them, was that fun? Or if you see that they're scared, wait for them to have the feeling first. And then validate what's already there. Otherwise, the mistake is trying to manufacture a feeling.
Okay, so almost like exposing our feelings and thoughts onto them at that moment. Exactly. So,
or being self-centered, like, I want my child to be happy about going down the slide. So, oh, it was great. Like, come on, jump up and down and be happy. Maybe he isn't. Maybe he's scared. Maybe it was too much for him. So read his feelings, and if you can't read it, ask him, did you like it? And best trick, don't say anything. This is a trick I learned from my middle child when he was 3 years old. He used to scream at me if I said something in the wrong timing, because even I failed and sometimes said when really shouldn't say anything. And he would scream like imagine a 3 years old, don't say anything. That's how he did that, and he did that in later ages for a few years there. And the only time I made a mistake was when he played piano, because he was a child prodigy in music and could play Bach by ear at age 3.5, It was so when he tried to figure out the left hand or move it from key to key and something more difficult, if he stumbled along the way or something, sometimes I would make a suggestion, because I'm a musician too. I learned not to very, very quickly. Don't say anything. So
okay, I think I'll remember this. Absolutely.
That's why I like to quote him and to say it in his little voice, which I can't imitate, of course, and it would be too loud for the microphone. Because he would really screech it in a very high voice. But cute. It was the best lesson. And he did that if somebody praised him. He was so authentic and so allergic to this endless commentary, because parents treat children like they were a laboratory specimen to comment all the time. Oh, he did this, he did that, which reminds me also, talking about the child in front of them. Don't do that. That also creates insecurity. Approval. Can you imagine standing there? We never do that to adults. And your friend is saying to a friend, well, Evrim is so wonderful. She was such a good woman today. She made dinner and she did this, or she cleaned her, I don't know. Or she interviewed and she was on, it's like, We don't do that. So you
Mm.
don't want this little child to stand there and daddy is standing there big and talking to another big person, telling them all about him, like he was the specimen of the experiments of the day, like life is about him. And then they say something good or they say something not good, and you go like, gee, what should I do next time so I get a good report? It's like starting with report cards and grades at infancy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I believe one should never have report cards and grades. That's
Yeah.
insulting and disrespect, the most disrespectful invention, going
Oh, but I
around.
guess that is a great way to create, need for approval, just
Well,
validation and approval. Yeah.
well, but grading children and telling them if they're good or bad, or if what they learned is correct or incorrect, is a way to
Yeah.
create insecurity
Yeah.
and to make them not like learning anymore
Mhm.
because they're being put on the line with all these evaluations. It's scary. They fail because they didn't say the exact right thing that the teacher said,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and they
Here, actually, I would like to ask you something. I think this is a perfect space. Like, as parents, we all want to see our children happy, joyful, healthy, peaceful. Although sometimes we may not be acting that way. But can you talk about how to handle, first of all, embrace, accept, and handle, maybe sadness and insecurities, all those feelings that we actually as parents don't want to see that our children are experiencing, although logically we know that is like inevitable, this is life, right? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So first of all, is stop creating it. I always like to give the analogy of burning the rice, even though I myself eat only raw and I don't cook. It's not part of my life, and I don't eat grains and beans at all. But I like to use you put rice on the fire and you got busy and you burnt it. Did the rice burn and you have to fix the rice? Or do you have to fix you?
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who burned it. You don't think it's the rice or the water or the pot or the fire, right? You know it's you. So the first answer is it's you. First, ask yourself, how did I teach my child to be so insecure? How did I teach my child to be anxious about their performance or how they're being? How did I take the confidence away from my child? Because they're born totally confident.
Yeah.
There is no baby who is afraid to ask for breastfeeding or for going to sleep. In fact, if you don't respond, they will scream it and the neighbors will hear it. It's
I
like,
love that.
I need now. They're not insecure. They know what they need. You put them to sleep when they don't want to sleep, they don't go to sleep because you put them when they don't want to. Even if they're tired, they may not want to go to sleep. And when we don't respect it, we're teaching them to not trust themselves and to not be independent and secure in themselves. It's the same thing. So the first thing that I would teach what to do about finding my child is anxious and has all these fears is stop teaching it to them and work on yourself to not have fears, because they get it from you even when you don't say it. So when you're anxious, they're anxious. It's a contagious disease, right?
Absolutely.
Anxiety. In fact, I'll give you an example. I see often parents, children with best of intentions that are doing attachment parenting. And attachment parenting is, in the last 10, 20 years that I'm teaching, is backfiring for a lot of parents. What they see is a child who is very, very clingy and insecure. Very attached to mother, healthy bond, wonderful relationship with the parents, but not willing to be with other people until much later ages. And as a result of it, and I did some of that myself, my children kind of developed later and said they had to work on their social skills and confidence kind of on their own as teenagers or young adults, because I was raising them a little bit in this bubble of this perfect relationship with mommy and daddy and we, the family unit. And it's really important for children from the beginning for confidence. So if your child is anxious, one solution is to include a lot more people in your family. So what I see in parents is 4 and 5 years old still in their parents' arms all the time and not willing to be with other people.
Mm.
Very, very clingy. And it has to do with the nuclear family. It has to do with the child. For them, this more community is threatening, mostly because the parents feel it's threatening. They're afraid of the influences. Will they feed them a bad food? Will they show them TV or show them a gadget? And I agree. I raised children without gadgets and without junk food. So you have to make some effort to find who the people are, to not yourself seek approval. And when you don't seek approval, you say to the other people, please, when we get together in the park, don't bring any candy.
Yeah.
And don't bring your smartphone. Can we do that? And if you get parents and children, families who are not willing to do that, yeah, they're the wrong family. Then that's probably not who to be with. I'm not saying you have to be only with families who don't use phones and gadgets and sugar, but with families who at least respect you and your wish, with your children, who when they get together with you will not expose your child to that, or not to, to some degree they'll be exposed. There's no way around it. The other thing with anxiety, once it's there, is to relieve the child of anxiety. It's like the CBT in psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy. You actually have to expose them and heal yourself from being anxious about it so they can see that you are cool about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So it's really being an example of that.
Yes.
And freedom from anxiety.
And not drown with the child. So I'll give you an example, nothing like example. So I'm sitting here years and years ago, and my third child is on a tricycle. He's 2.5 years old, and he's riding right outside this window. So I see him through the window. He's all by himself riding on this big, big porch we used to have. And he fell, and the bike fell on him. And he screamed. He was really surprised. And I looked, I could see nothing serious happened. And I didn't even go there. Okay? And he looked around like, what am I supposed to feel? Is anybody reacting? Is anybody upset? Did something bad happen to me? Well, nobody showed up. So he got up, got back on the bike, and rode the bike.
That's beautiful. You're actually reminding me, like my almost 6 years old now, when I react to, he loves cycling, and if he falls or something happens, and when he sees me like, oh, are you okay? He actually gets upset. He's like, yes, I am okay. It's like, I'm okay. What is they fuss about? They don't like it, right? So yeah.
Exactly. So we don't want to say that. It's well intended. It shows that you care, and all this stuff that adults think is wonderful. But what's wonderful for the kid is to learn, I can take care of me, to really learn the real independence. And I am rooted in myself. I know what I feel. I don't need somebody to come and tell me. Of course, if I saw and I could tell, that something serious happened, I would be there. But even then, I wouldn't show up as scary or scared. I wouldn't run over there and say, oh, what happened? Let me see. Oh, no. I wouldn't do any of that. In fact, I have another story. In a birthday party that my children attended, all the children were playing with those, those wagons on 4 wheels. You can put a bunch of kids in there, and 2 kids were pulling it. And they were pulling it kind of on the rocks down the hill, and the whole thing spilled. Right. All the kids were on the ground. And none of the kids cried except for one. And the one, she cried after her mother ran over and picked her up in horror. Right? Oh no! Whatever her name. And she picked her up, and the child started crying. Because she got feedback from her mother that something horrible happened. All the other kids, I can't forget their faces because they all looked at her like entertainment. So the 4 other kids are like looking like, what happened to this girl? Nothing happened to us. We were laughing, It's like,
yeah.
And the girl, she had a little scratch. They all had a little scratches here and there, but not bleeding, nothing serious. And the mother created in her this sense of anxiety. So the first answer to get rid of anxiety is for us to not show our anxiety and to actually work on it, which is why I recommend for people, all parents, to take sessions. The best gift you can give your child is to work on yourself.
Yes.
Because it's not so much what your parenting method is, authoritarian or free or this or that. It's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
They absorb you. You are a goddess and a god for them. And however you are, your being, and they sense your feelings, your emotions, your anxieties, your confidence, how you're being, your love is what they're getting. That's who they become. They're just a mirror of you. So really watch yourself, because the mirror is going to be what you are putting out there.
Oh, this is perfect, Naomi. Yeah.
So you want to take them into it when they're afraid of something. And I'm not talking about a child doesn't want to go to school and they force them to go to school. No, I'm not talking about that. I would trust the child. Or a child wants to sleep with you and you tell them go sleep by yourself. That's exactly the example I gave. Listen to them. This is what they need. It's a primal need. But when the child is illogically scared of something, you know, when my middle child said to me that he's afraid that there are monsters in the garage, I take them to the garage to check it. When children think there is a dragon under their bed, I take the flashlight and I go with them under the bed and we look, you know, show them, let them confront the dragon and see that there is nothing there, or that if there is something there, that they can handle it, that it's not. I mean, if it is something unsafe, of course, you know, if it's a poisonous snake, you teach them how to get away from it and call mommy to go, you know, secure the situation.
Yeah. That's such an amazing thing to learn for life as well. Like you said, help them, support them to face the dragon. And that is what, as adults, that's what we do every day, right? If we don't have that courage to face the dragon, whatever that dragon is today or tomorrow, it will be, then
and the dragon is inside of us 100%. There's no dragons out there anyway.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you, Naomi. And
we have lots of dragons inside of us, including the fear that the child wouldn't turn out all right, and that if I say this or that, he'll be harmed, and I have to just constantly give them what they want and all that stuff. And yes, be kind, and yes, create a world that basically responds to them kindly and positively. But life is life. It's very important for children to also suffer and to also experience reality, real life, not a panacea. And reality doesn't always play their game, and they shouldn't be the center of everything. Life shouldn't be about them. That's another reason to also be in community and not in the nuclear family. You don't want a child to be born to feel like a drop in the ocean, not a king. To join a community, like you're joining life that's already existing, not here I came and life is about me. that isn't what's going to create resilience, because it's not going to stay.
Yeah,
then they're an adult and life is not about them, and there are millions of other people, and one person tells them that they're not the prettiest and most unique and fantastic person, and they fall apart and want to commit suicide. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. This happens these days.
Yeah, and you are actually touching on such a great point. Well, this summit is about creating connection, joy, and help for family, right? And that, especially that connection piece, starts with exactly what you're describing, that, you know, it's not us just, you know, we're connected, and it's beautiful. Thank you. And we could go ahead for another half an hour easily, or even more. But is there anything specific that you feel like touching on before we move closing to the interview?
Okay. I would say, you know, it's really important in terms of including, of uniting with the whole community, not just the family. It's really important to work on getting away from the nuclear family from day one. When babies are held by lots of people and see a community of people that they're not the center of, they grow up with much more confidence, much more. So that's another good reason to not teach them to seek approval. So it's not about them. Seeking approval is all about me. Am I good? So it's all connected, and to keep them rooted in themselves and not self-centered. But there's a new thing I've been saying recently that I want to add here. I invite parents to raise ordinary people.
Wow.
We need that so badly, because since the 60s, praise not only takes away self-esteem and confidence, but it comes together with parents going and idealizing a child and telling them there's only one of you, which is true, but we don't need to talk about that. Unique, you're so unique, you're spatial. No, you're not. There are almost 8 billion of us, and there have been more over the history. And it's not about being unique, because then you become this self-centered identity. And the self-centered identity is very fragile because you can't retain it. We can't stay self-centered. So knowing that I'm part of, and that's why community is so important, and that I'm ordinary, I'm one of other people. And I have to tell you, this is something that I made a mistake on. My children are extremely talented, but all children are extremely talented. But my husband and I think, made the mistake, and I know it, my kids told me, of giving them the feeling, at least one of them told me that he had a feeling that somehow he's better than all the other children. That he's smarter, that he's a genius. We used to say, my husband used to say to him, there is nothing you couldn't do with this kind of a brain, or all kinds of sayings like this. But I hear parents saying, oh, you are so special, you're so unique, you're so beautiful, that we need to stop doing that. We need to raise ordinary people, and then we won't have this epidemic that professors in universities are reporting about of anxiety and depression. Because it cannot be retained. They come to college and all of a sudden they're not the one, and they're not spatial, and they're not unique, and life is about contributing to others, not being a star. And some of them ending up stars, but the real stars contribute. Charlie Chaplin was a star, but he made a huge contribution to humanity. So if you're going to be a star, contribute. Most of us are not going to be a star. And in our day-to-day life with people, we need to see ourselves as a contributor to the whole. And that leads back to the subject of unity, because when we contribute to the whole, we create yoga. Yoga means unity. We create, and that's politically and in every way is the way to peace on earth.
This is so powerful, Naomi. Thank you so much. Such a beautiful, powerful closing indeed. And it's an extraordinary message, really, raising ordinary people. Yes. Wow. So let me ask you your free gift for our audience.
So I will be putting a video for free that they can get that will address the power over oneself as opposed to power over the other. That video has one woman asking a question in Czech, but not to worry when they hear the question in Czech. There's no translation, but there is a written translation next to the video or on the page before. So they'll know what she asked. They need to read the question. The answer is all in English, because she translated it for her audience. But it's just one question with one very core answer that a lot of parents get confused about, which is why I decided to do that, because everything that I say to you, and I knew we would talk about the subject that you presented, creates a lot of confusion for parents. How do I do that? Do I just give a child whatever they want, or the other way around? Do I just be more real and say no when I need to say no? So I think the answer to that question, I talk for about 15 minutes addressing, giving examples. So I think that would be really helpful for those who listen to this interview.
Great. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And the link...
And also to let you know that, you'll provide the link.
Yes, I'll provide the link in the same email of this interview. Yes.
But I want people to also know they can have private sessions by email, by Skype, by phone, by Zoom, whatever way they want, from all over the world. And also family intensives are really phenomenal when families come here or I go to their homes. And I do workshops. So anybody who is more of an organizer, want to save themselves money, the organizer doesn't pay to get to the workshop. Organizing. So I go to places, if they're not too far. I try not to fly too far away to not pollute the world. And also I'm 70 years old, getting a little tired of all the traveling I've been doing. And so a lot of workshops and classes can be done on screen.
Okay. Okay. And I will provide your website link as well. So your website link and the link to your video, they are actually in the same email that our audience received this interview. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Naomi, for your time, your very special wisdom, knowledge. Thank you so much.